I told you guys in the review for Neo Geo Battle Coliseum that the only reason why I reviewed that game first was that it was one of my favorites released for the Atomiswave back when SNK Playmore announced they were going to develop games for that platform. Well, today I'm looking at the very first game SNK Playmore released for the Atomiswave, the King of Fighters Neowave. It was released in July of 2004, and with this review you will have seen the first two games released as part of the 5-game deal SNK Playmore had with Sammy. So enough of the intro, let's jump on into the game itself. While this isn't a numbered entry in the series, it sure feels like a classic King of Fighters. You select 3 different characters and have to beat each character in your opponent's team in order to win the match. You'll select which of your 3-party team will begin the match, and you keep that character all the way until you either crush the opposing team or one of the 3 opponents takes you down. Then you move on to your number 2 character and so on. This is fairly common for a King of Fighters game, but by the time this one was released, the numbered entries were up to the King of Fighters 2003, and there were some pretty interesting gameplay additions like the striker system and being able to tag your teammate in mid-battle, both of which were not present in this game. That's not to say this was a step backwards, but it was a bit surprising back when I first played the game. I think that's why I focused more on Battle Coliseum back then, because I really enjoyed the tag system. What makes this one unique is that it features a heat mode button, which causes your character to flash red and increases their offensive attack power at the cost of ever-draining life. You can turn heat mode off by hitting the heat mode button one more time. This mechanic was a fairly simple addition to the core gameplay, but thankfully wasn't the only element added to the game. There were a bunch of limitations that were added to the heat mode too, such as it being turned off the minute you were hit, and the fact you can only use it once per round, and when you had sufficient health. All of this prevents someone from abusing the system. Now I'll admit it does take a little bit of getting used to having a 5th button while playing a King of Fighters game, considering the whole series was pretty much a 4-button series. And so I'm kind of glad SNK decided that, you know what, we're going to put that one off button for the heat mode because, well, you only use it sparingly. The other gameplay feature of Neowave is the 3 different gameplay modes you select before you pick which character you want to use. The first mode is called Super Cancel, which features a 3-stock power gauge and allows you to perform cancels, escapes, and naturally super special moves. There are also max super moves you can perform at the cost of 2 stock. Guard Break mode allows you to use a 2 power stock gauge, perform super specials, max specials, and parry an attack just as it makes contact and counter with your own. This requires a lot of practice to get good at. You can naturally perform a Guard Break move, which is an unblockable version of your character's knockdown attack. The final mode, Max 2 mode, grants a 1-stock power gauge, so you can perform a super special like the other 2 moves with 1 stock. However, in order to perform a max special, the player's life has to be at a certain level. The thing is that you can also perform a guard cancel into a knockdown attack in this mode. I suggest only advanced players try this one out. So that's the overall gist of what makes Neowave tick. Much like the King of Fighters 98 and 2002, this is a dream match, meaning it doesn't feature a storyline and instead allows characters to mix and match regardless of where they happen to be in the current storyline. In terms of character lineup and teams, the game closely follows that of the King of Fighters 2002 from the Neo Geo days. Many returning favorite teams are featured, including the Japan Team, K-Team, Yagami Team, 97 Team, 97 New Faces Team, Fatal Fury Team, Psycho Soldier Team, Art of Fighting Team, Akari Team, a new Mixed Team, Korea Team, and finally the Women's Fighters Team. In total, with 3 characters per team, that's a whopping 36 characters to choose from, which means there is a combined team of characters for just about everyone out there. For this being the first SNK Playmore game on the Atomiswave, you'd expect every one of those 36 playable characters to feature redrawn sprites, right? Well, if you're actually thinking that, you're dreaming. While the graphics certainly look cleaned up compared to what we saw in King of Fighters 2002 and 2003, the sprites are certainly recycled, but it's the backgrounds that stand out. They look very sharp, nice, and detailed, which for the time was exactly what I was looking for. Keep in mind that this game was released in 2004, which was 1 year before the Xbox 360 was released, just to put things into perspective. I never found the soundtrack to be a memorable one, but you can argue with me on that. Sound effects are your typical cough fare, so you know what to expect. The King of Fighters Neowave is a fun game, and it was always one I actually really enjoyed. I've been a long-time fan of the series since its inception, and while it has always been aimed at the hardcore audience, it's one I'm sure many people can enjoy. Like all of the SNK Playmore produced Atomiswave games, you can pick this one up on home consoles. The PlayStation 2 version was released in 2006 in both Japan and Europe, while the North American version was released in late 2006 exclusively for the original Xbox, and it even had Xbox Live support. From what I've heard, there are load times in those particular versions though, whereas the Atomiswave, well, you don't notice loading much at all. It's an all-around fun fighting game and would tide me over quite nicely until the King of Fighters 11 hit in October of 2005. As I mentioned in my review of Neo Geo Battle Coliseum, these two games were the ones I first experienced on the Atomiswave, and I had an absolute blast with them both. Needless to say, I can easily recommend the King of Fighters Neowave.
KO! Winner!
分かっちゃいねえな。